Welcome to Cybersecurity Under Pressure. Real attacks, real lessons. Every breach starts with something small. A trusted login, a missed alert, a system no one thought could matter. Here, we follow the incident. How it began, how it moved, what broke under pressure, and what security engineering and business teams should learn before the next one. Because the next attack will not wait for a perfect plan. Now, let's follow the evidence.
Welcome to Cybersecurity Under Pressure. Real attacks, real lessons. Today is Monday, June 29th, 2026.
I have been thinking about this story all week. It starts with a breach and ends with a question every CISO should be asking about ransomware and industrial control systems.
And honestly, man, I can practically hear the nervous energy radiating off of you today.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely have that distinct tone of someone who just spent their entire Sunday triaging, critical alerts while the rest of the world was outside having a barbecue. Are you just running entirely on caffeine at this point?
Yeah, I'm definitely on my fourth mug of coffee. And yes, it is completely cold at this point.
Yikes.
Yeah, try 48 hours of just staring at raw packet captures and firewall logs because, third-party vendor decided Friday at 5 p.m. was the absolute perfect time to push an entirely undocumented firmware update.
Oh, to a critical network segment, I bet. Exactly. But, that is just the reality of the operational technology world, right? If you are listening to this right now and you actually manage an OT network, you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
We are essentially the digital janitors trying to keep the physical world from just spinning off its axis.
Yeah.
And right now, our brooms are completely on fire.
Well, grab another cup from that pot because our mission for this deep dive is going to require, honestly, all the mental bandwidth we can muster today.
Look it on.
We're tearing apart a massive stack of sources today. We're looking at the latest frontline threat intelligence, the impending regulatory mandates dropping on our heads from the EU.
Don't even get me started on the EU regulations.
Right. And the architectural blueprints that dictate exactly how we keep industrial plants running when the network itself is just compromised.
Yeah.
We're looking at a fundamentally crumbling perimeter, deeply vulnerable headless legacy devices, and this sort of desperate industry pivot toward zero trust and software-defined factories. We basically need to figure out how to operate when we can no longer trust the wires connecting our machines.
It is a staggering operational shift. We are moving from treating the factory floor like this secure, isolated, walled garden to simply assuming the walls are already breached.
Because they usually are.
Because, let's be brutally honest, they always are. Air gaps they're basically a myth we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night.
Exactly. Which means we have to start by confronting the really hostile reality of this Monday morning. So over the weekend, I was reading up on the scattered spider hackers.
Oh, right. The kids?
Yeah. We were talking about two guys here. Thala Jubair, who's 20 years old, and Owen Flowers, who is literally just 18.
Unbelievable.
They just pleaded guilty in the UK for the massive Transport for London attack. And, these are the exact same kids who allegedly dismantled the MGM and Caesars casinos in Las Vegas back in 2023. 18 and 20 years old, taking down massive infrastructure.
I have to laugh, but it's a really dark, painful laugh.
Yeah, I feel that.
You have multinational organizations spending tens of millions of dollars on next-generation firewalls, endpoint detection and response agents, military-grade encryption overlays.
All the shiny toys.
All of it. And they get entirely dismantled by two teenagers running a Telegram channel called StarChat. It just shows you that the perimeter doesn't exist where we think it does.
Right, because this was essentially just a massive SIM swapping service. But explain the mechanics of that to me for the listeners who might be a bit fuzzy. Why is a SIM swapping service so devastating to an enterprise environment?
Well,
Because, we hear about SIM swapping when someone gets their personal cryptocurrency wallet stolen. But how does that translate to taking down the entire IT infrastructure of Transport for London?
it translates because enterprise security has, for better or worse, fundamentally tied its entire identity trust to the cellular network, which is arguably the weakest link in the chain.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost poetic in its simplicity. These teenagers did not burn a complex zero-day exploit to break into a mainframe like it's some Hollywood movie.
Right, no matrix text scrolling on the screen.
Exactly. They used voice and SMS phishing.
Right.
They tricked human employees at major wireless telecom providers. They stole their credentials, logged into the telecom provider's internal portal, and physically reassigned the victim's phone number to a SIM card that the attackers actually controlled.
Wait, so they just completely hijacked the phone number?
Exactly. And once you control a phone number, you intercept the multi-factor authentication codes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when the victim's enterprise VPN prompts them for a login, it sends that one-time passcode via SMS to the phone number on file. The attacker gets the code, not the employee.
So they bypass the front door completely.
Completely. They breached over 130 massive organizations, companies like LastPass, DoorDash, MailChimp, just by weaponizing customer service protocols at telecommunications companies. It completely invalidates the millions spent on network perimeter defense.
Okay, but let me push back here just a bit. SIM swapping is terrifying, obviously, but it is essentially a social engineering attack against the IT perimeter.
Sure.
We've known about MFA fatigue and SMS vulnerabilities for years now. Is this just the same old IT ransomware story sort of creeping into the headlines again?
No, it is definitely not the same old story. Because the professional cybercrime economy has evolved into a highly optimized, hyper-aggressive corporate structure.
How so?
Look at the data on the Gentleman Ransomware Group. This is the group led by an administrator going by the handle Zeta88 on Russian dark web forums.
Okay.
They are completely disrupting the entire ransomware as a service market by offering a 90-to-10 affiliate split.
Wait, meaning 90% of the ransom payout goes to the hacker who actually deploys the malware, and the core developers only take 10%.
Exactly. That is a staggering profit margin for the affiliate.
That's huge.
It really is. The criminal industry standard has always been an 80-20 split. By bumping it to 90%, Zeta88 is essentially creating a massive brain drain from other ransomware cartels.
Oh, so they're poaching talent.
Exactly. They are recruiting the absolute best, most aggressive penetration testers in the criminal underground. And Checkpoint research shows they are incredibly fast.
Fast how?
Well, they're already the second most active ransomware group this year. They specifically target internet-facing edge devices, your VPN appliances, your edge firewalls. Once they exploit a vulnerability there, they're inside, and they encrypt the entire network in a matter of hours, not days.
Man. And according to the latest Kaspersky ICS CERT data, the manufacturing sector is taking the absolute brunt of this accelerated aggression.
Oh yeah, manufacturing's a massive target.
Right. In the first quarter of 2026, the percentage of attacked industrial computers in manufacturing jumped across 10 different global regions.
Yeah, it's bad.
So the attacks are getting faster, the affiliates are getting paid more, and they're aiming squarely at industrial control systems. But if we're talking about how these threat actors are getting in, we have to talk about the catastrophic failures happening on the defense side.
Oh, please tell me we are going to talk about the CISA GovCloud leak.
We absolutely are.
Good, because if we want to talk about how trust is broken, that is literally the ultimate example.
Yeah, and calling it a leak is almost too polite, honestly. It was a complete breakdown of fundamental security hygiene at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the very federal body that writes the guidelines on how you and I are supposed to defend critical infrastructure.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, let's break down exactly what happened here. A contractor, an administrator for CISA's secure code development environment, was using GitHub.
Okay, pretty standard.
Right. Now, GitHub has built-in automated features specifically designed to scan your code and block you from accidentally publishing sensitive secrets, like API keys or passwords.
Yeah, the secret scanning tools.
Exactly. This administrator literally went into the settings, disabled those secret blocking features manually, and then pushed plain text AWS keys and internal passwords to a public repository.
And the name of the public repository was literally Private CISA.
You could not write a script this absurd if you tried.
Seriously.
Guillaume Valadon, a security researcher from GitGuardian, found it. He found a file literally called Important OS Tokens just sitting out in the open.
Unbelievable.
And this wasn't just a low-level access key. This file granted high-level administrative access to 3 Amazon AWS GovCloud servers. And it gets worse, obviously.
Of course it does.
There was a CSV file containing dozens of plaintext usernames and passwords for internal CISA systems, including their landing zone DevSecOps environment.
Wait, the DevSecOps environment?
Mhm.
Meaning the exact tools and pipelines they use to build, test, and deploy their own internal software.
Right, and Dylan Airy, the security researcher who created the secret scanning tool Truffalog,
Yeah.
he analyzed the leak and pointed out that one of the exposed RSA private keys gave an attacker full access to all code repositories within the entire CISA IT organization.
So what does that actually mean in practice? If I'm a threat actor and I have that RSA private key, what can I realistically do?
You can register a rogue runner on their continuous integration pipeline. You can hijack the automated build process entirely.
Oh, wow.
You can secretly inject a backdoor into the software packages CISA is building before they are ever even deployed. You could theoretically poison the well at the absolute source.
That's terrifying.
It is. If the top federal cybersecurity agency in the United States has contractors essentially taping the master override keys to the front gate of the facility, what hope does a local underfunded municipal water utility have?
But wait, stop right there for a second. I get the analogy of taping the keys to the front gate, but let's connect this to the listener who is managing an actual factory floor right now. The CISA leak is a human error. It's a contractor making a spectacularly bad decision on GitHub. How does human error in cloud environments directly connect to the failure of operational technology on the ground?
It connects
Yeah.
because it proves that you just cannot rely on administrative policy or perimeter hygiene to keep the attacker out of the network. The attacker's going to get inside,
Period.
whether through a SIM swap, an affiliated ransomware operator exploiting a firewall, or a leaked key on GitHub. They will breach the perimeter. And once they're inside, your last line of defense isn't a firewall.
Right. What is it?
It's the internal network architecture itself. Specifically, the network switches that route traffic between your engineering workstations and your critical safety systems.
Which leads us directly into the heart of the problem today. If patching the humans and securing the perimeter is failing, we have to look at the devices that actually enforce the trust inside the building. I want to look at the June 2026 CISA advisory regarding Schneider Electric's Modicon and Connexium managed switches. And look, I am not going to ask what a switch does. We know it routes packets.
Right.
My question is far more pointed. I get that the managed switch is the ultimate trust boundary on the factory floor. But if we know MD5 cryptography is completely broken, why in the world are we still relying on Radius implementations that allow packet forgery in 2026?
That is exactly the right question to ask. And honestly, the answer is rooted in the terrifying technical debt of operational technology.
I figured.
We really have to unpack the mechanism of this vulnerability, CVE 2024-3596. A managed switch in an industrial environment is literally the physical manifestation of the plant's trust model.
Okay, break that down for me.
You have programmable logic controllers, human-machine interfaces, and robotic arms. And they're all depending on these switches to enforce who is allowed to talk to whom. The standard way we enforce this is through 802.1x port-based network access control, which is backed by a Radius server.
Right, remote authentication dial-in user service. It has been around forever.
Exactly. It relies on UDP,
Yeah.
usually on ports 1812 and 1645. And the problem is how it handles the integrity of the authentication packets. In many of these legacy Schneider Electric setups, the Radius protocol uses MD5 hashing to verify that the packets haven't been tampered with in transit.
Ah, MD5.
Yeah, but as you just pointed out, MD5 has been highly vulnerable to collision attacks for over 2 decades.
Right. For the listener who hasn't looked at cryptographic hash functions recently, explain the mechanism of a collision attack here. How does a weakness in MD5 allow an attacker to actually bypass a locked switch port?
So an MD5 collision happens when 2 completely different pieces of input data produce the exact same cryptographic hash output.
Which shouldn't happen.
Which should never happen, right? Because the Radius protocol uses a shared secret that doesn't change. An attacker who is sitting on the local network segment can actually predict how the hash will be calculated. When a legitimate device tries to connect to the switch sends a Radius access request packet to the authentication server.
And the attacker intercepts that packet?
They intercept it, and because of the MD5 weakness, they can forge a malicious Radius access accept packet. They inject carefully crafted garbage data into the packet so that when the switch hashes it, it produces the exact same MD5 hash as a legitimate response from the real server.
Wow.
So the switch calculates the hash, sees that it matches what it expected, and just blindly assumes the authenticating server just approved the connection.
That's insane. So a threat actor can walk onto a factory floor, plug a rogue laptop into a random wall jack, forge the access accept packet, and completely bypass the 802.1x authentication.
Boom. The unauthorized device is now fully authenticated on a critical production virtual local area network. The switch literally just lied to the entire security architecture.
You know, I was reading a piece of analysis about this specific vulnerability, and it made a really chilling point. It noted that an OT switch rarely appears in an executive board report until the plant starts behaving strangely.
That analysis is spot on, because when an attacker uses this radius forgery to compromise the management plane of a switch, they almost never hit the emergency stop button and shut down the plant immediately.
Why not?
That is way too noisy. The Security Operations Center would see the shutdown instantly.
So what do they do instead? What is the actual operational impact once they are sitting comfortably on that trusted VLAN?
They change a traffic path. They manipulate the switch's routing table so that your intrusion detection system and your network monitoring tools go entirely blind.
Sneaky.
Extremely. They stop mirroring the malicious traffic to your security sensors. Or, even worse, they open a hidden conduit through the switch so that a compromised engineering workstation can reach a safety instrumented system that it has absolutely no business touching.
But the operators don't see it.
No. The plant operators in the control room still see packets moving. The green lights on the dashboard are still on. But the cybersecurity team has completely lost confidence that the physical plant is behaving as designed. The attacker is essentially flying the plane from the shadows.
So hold on, let me challenge this entire scenario for a second. Every industrial network architect I speak to preaches the gospel of the IEC 62443 standard.
Oh, here we go.
They wave the Purdue Enterprise Reference Architecture model in my face, talking about rigid zones and conduits. We are supposed to have physical and logical segmentation, preventing an attacker from jumping from a low-level workstation directly to a critical safety system. Why doesn't that heavily regulated segmentation stop this radius attack?
Well, welcome to the reality of the factory floor, where the beautiful architectural spreadsheets absolutely do not survive contact with a 15-year-old microcontroller.
Fair point.
The IEC 62443 standard is fantastic in theory. It dictates that you group your assets based on strict security requirements, assigning them security levels from 1 to 4. But then you have external consultants coming in, trying to slap security level 4 controls, which demand heavy cryptography, mutual authentication, and deep packet inspection onto bottom-tier embedded devices at level 1 of the Purdue model.
And these are the actual programmable logic controllers, right? The device is physically opening the valves and moving the robotic arms.
Exactly. These PLCs and remote terminal units are running embedded microcontrollers with almost zero compute headroom.
So they can't handle it.
Not at all. Their entire processor is dedicated to maintaining a deterministic cycle, time reading a sensor, and flipping a relay in 5 milliseconds flat. If you try to force complex transport layer security or heavy authentication protocols onto them natively, you break the device. They literally cannot process the cryptographic overhead, and the entire process crashes.
So because the endpoints themselves are too weak to defend themselves, you have to rely entirely on the network switch to act as the enforcer.
The switch becomes the conduit. It is the only thing enforcing the boundary between the zones. And if that switch is lying to you because of a 2-decade-old radius forgery vulnerability, your zone is instantly compromised. The attacker just bypassed the conduit. At that moment, your highly touted expensive network segmentation is nothing more than a slide in a PowerPoint deck. It is not a real operational control.
That is a brutal reality check. The perimeter is compromised by SIM swapping, the internal conduits are bypassed by legacy cryptography, and the endpoints physically cannot support modern security protocols.
Yep, welcome to my Monday.
Which is exactly why the regulators are completely losing patience. They're no longer just issuing polite guidelines and best practice documents. They are stepping in to force a fundamental change. If you're managing compliance right now, September 2026 is circling on your calendar like a bird of prey.
Oh, you were talking about the European Union Cyber Resilience Act, the CRA.
Exactly.
It is going to fundamentally, aggressively change how we build, deploy, and maintain industrial hardware across the globe.
Right, because as of September 11th, 2026, the CRA mandates a terrifyingly tight window for disclosure. Any manufacturer or operator must report actively exploited vulnerabilities and severe security incidents to the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, within 24 hours of becoming aware of them.
24 hours. It's crazy.
And to even know if you are vulnerable to a new exploit, the CRA is forcing the mandatory adoption of machine-readable software bill of materials, or SBOMs, for all digital products.
Just saying the acronym SBOM makes my blood pressure spike, honestly.
I can imagine.
Do you have any idea what it actually means to generate a machine-readable, fully accurate SBOM for a legacy device that has been bolted to a factory floor for 15 years?
Probably a headache.
It is an administrative nightmare of epic proportions.
Yeah.
We have massive fleets of legacy PLCs and RTUs running critical infrastructure where the original vendor doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh, right.
The company went bankrupt or got acquired 3 times over.
Yeah.
Or the firmware was custom compiled by some brilliant engineer who retired a decade ago and left exactly 0 documentation.
Yeah. You know, this sounds exactly like what they covered in the wire transfer deep dive regarding new compliance rules, creating cascading financial risks through the entire global supply chain.
Yes.
If you're a component manufacturer and you cannot produce that machine-readable SBOM, you cannot prove compliance. And if you can't prove compliance, you're suddenly facing massive regulatory fines. Or worse, you get completely locked out of selling into the European markets. The financial contagion is huge.
It is an existential threat to vendors. I mean, an SBOM is essentially a highly detailed restaurant allergy warning for software.
That's a good way to put it.
Think about it. If a 0-day exploit drops on a Friday night, and you find out a specific, obscure open-source library has a critical remote code execution vulnerability, say another catastrophic log4j situation, you need to know exactly which embedded devices on your manufacturing floor are silently running that specific library deep in their firmware.
Right, because if you don't know it's there.
You cannot recall a tainted ingredient if you have absolutely no idea it is floating in the soup.
And the CRA doesn't just want you to know you're vulnerable, they demand that you fix it, which forces us to look at the mechanism of patching these massive distributed environments, which brings up the massive double-edged sword of over-the-air or OTA updates.
OTA updates are quite literally the only way you can realistically comply with these 24-hour reporting and patching windows across thousands of distributed industrial Internet of Things devices.
Because you can't do it manually.
Exactly. If you manage a municipal water network, you cannot send a technician in a physical truck to drive around and manually plug a USB drive into every single water pump controller across 100 square miles.
Yeah.
It's logistically impossible. You have to push the patch over the network. But if your OTA implementation architecture is weak,
It ceases to be a patching mechanism and becomes the ultimate, highly efficient attack vector for a threat actor.
exactly. Let's break down the mechanics of a secure OTA update. If the firmware payload isn't encrypted in transit with AES-256, if it doesn't use asymmetric cryptography like RSA or elliptic curve cryptography for deeply integrated digital signatures,
Right.
and most importantly, if the receiving device does not have a physical hardware root of trust enforcing secure boot, you aren't patching a vulnerability at all.
You're just handing the ransomware affiliate an automated, highly efficient delivery mechanism to inject malicious code directly into the memory of your critical infrastructure.
You're doing their job for them. If the device cannot cryptographically verify that the firmware update came exclusively from the original equipment manufacturer, an attacker who compromises your update server can push a malicious firmware image to every single PLC on your network simultaneously.
That's a nightmare.
You brick the entire factory in one keystroke.
So we are essentially caught in an impossible paradox here. The European regulators are basically demanding a zero-trust posture in environments that were entirely fundamentally built on implicit trust.
Exactly.
They want 24-hour reporting, cryptographic over-the-air updates, and machine-readable dependency trees for devices that were designed back when dial-up internet was still a cutting-edge technology. How do you actually bridge that gap?
Well, you cannot fix the old devices natively. We already established they lack the compute power. So you have to build a fortress around them. You have to wrap the legacy architecture in a modern security overlay.
Which leads us directly to Kiran Upadrasta's V4.0 Doctrine on Zero Trust for Industrial Control Systems.
Yes, brilliant paper.
I was analyzing this specific white paper, and it tackles the exact paradox you just described, but I want you to explain the mechanics of it. How do you theoretically enforce zero trust on a PLC from 1995 that has absolutely no concept of human identity, zero cryptography, and lacks any concept of a network session model?
You use identity-aware overlays and protocol proxies. Look, the fundamental problem, what UPaddress formally defines as the headless device authentication problem, is that devices at level 0 and level 1 of the Purdue model cannot authenticate users, period.
Right, they just don't have the brains for it.
Exactly. They speak unencrypted legacy protocols like Modbus, DMP3, or basic common industrial protocol. These protocols were built for serial cables. They have zero native security. The PLC does not know and does not care who is sending the command to open a relief valve. It just sees the packet arrive on the wire, reads the function code, and executes it.
So if an attacker, like our affiliated ransomware operators we talked about earlier, gets onto the internal network and simply runs a scan to learn the IP address of the PLC, they can just format a standard Modbus packet, send a command to halt the process, and the PLC will happily, obediently oblige.
100%. It will shut down without a second thought. So instead of trying to force the legacy PLC to authenticate the user, which we know will break the device, you interpose a proxy. You build an intelligent network layer that physically wraps the headless device.
Okay, walk me through a packet's journey in this architecture. Let's say a legitimate engineer on a laptop needs to connect to the PLC to run a diagnostic.
In the Upadrasta doctrine, the engineer does not connect to the PLC.
Okay, where do they go?
They connect directly to the identity-aware proxy sitting in front of it. The proxy intercepts the connection and acts as an absolute bouncer at the door. It forces the engineer's laptop to negotiate a modern TLS encrypted session.
Got it.
It demands multi-factor authentication. It checks the device posture to ensure the laptop isn't running malicious processes. It confirms their specific identity context and role-based access permissions.
And only if the proxy fully trusts the engineer, what happens to the packet?
Only then does the proxy translate that secure, authenticated connection into the legacy Modbus protocol. It strips off the modern encryption, encapsulates the command into the raw legacy protocol, and passes it down the short, trusted physical wire to the PLC.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. You are injecting TLS encryption and identity verification into legacy protocols by acting as a highly intelligent middleman. The PLC still thinks it is just talking on a flat, trusted network, but the proxy ensures that only explicitly authorized commands ever reach it.
I am looking at the empirical data from Upadrasta's paper right now, and I have to stop you to highlight this. It states that implementing the specific proxy architecture reduces successful lateral movement from compromised engineering workstations by an astonishing 87 to 94%.
Yep.
That is a massive, almost unbelievable drop in successful attacks.
It sounds unbelievable until you look at the mechanics, but it is based on real data from independent red team testing across 14 different advisory engagements. By enforcing minimum trust access strictly at the protocol layer, rather than trying and failing to fix the device layer, you stop compromised workstations dead in their tracks.
How does that look in practice?
Think back to the scenario we discussed earlier. The scattered spider attacker uses SIM swapping to bypass the VPN and compromise an engineering workstation. In a traditional legacy network, they are now inside the trusted zone. They can freely scan the network, find the PLCs, and start firing off malicious Modbus function codes.
But with the identity overlay proxy in place,
With the overlay, the compromised workstation tries to scan the network, and the proxy simply drops the traffic silently. The attacker tries to blindly send a Modbus command, and the proxy intercepts it, demanding a valid cryptographic session token tied to a specific human identity and an approved behavioral baseline.
which they don't have.
They don't have it. The lateral movement fails completely because the network itself refuses to route unauthenticated protocol commands to the endpoints. It neutralizes the compromised workstation entirely.
Okay, I hear the theory, and the mechanism is definitely sound. The 94% reduction is incredible on paper, but let me push back with a hard, ugly operational scenario.
Lay it on me.
We know proxies introduce latency and rely on external identity providers. It is 2 a.m. on a Sunday. A highly pressurized pipe is actively bursting in a remote municipal pumping station.
Bad situation.
Very. The pressure is building toward a catastrophic kinetic explosion, and the local proxy server has just crashed, or the internet connection back to the cloud identity provider is completely down. Do I seriously have to stand there and wait for a multi-factor authentication push to my phone to time out before I can open the emergency relief valve? Because if I do, that pipe is going to take out the entire facility.
I love that you asked that because every single seasoned plant manager asks that exact terrifying question. You cannot let digital security cause a catastrophic physical safety failure. The doctrine accounts for this with edge case engineering. The solution is the physical break glass safe.
You mean a literal physical metal safe?
A heavy physical lockbox bolted to the wall inside the control room. Inside that safe, there are pre-authenticated hard-coded emergency tokens, usually specific USB hardware keys that are cryptographically designed to instantly bypass the identity proxy and allow immediate, localized access to the critical safety PLCs.
That sounds like a massive backdoor.
It is, but here is the critical catch. They are strictly one-time use. The absolute millisecond you plug that emergency hardware token into the terminal, it triggers a massive, unignorable logging event.
Ah, so you can't hide it.
Exactly. It fires off high-priority paging alerts to the Security Operations Center, sounding alarms across the organization. And it automatically mandates a formal executive-level post-incident review. You can bypass the proxy, you can stop the bursting pipe immediately to save the plant, but you're going to have to stand in front of the CISO the next morning and explain exactly, mathematically, why you broke the glass.
That is a brilliant, pragmatic balance of physical safety and digital security. But listening to the sheer complexity of this, the identity overlays, the proxies, the PLS translation, the physical break glass safes, it makes me wonder if this is how much money, effort, and architectural gymnastics it takes just to fix the old factories. What does it look like when we build a new one entirely from scratch?
Oh, you throw the old architecture completely out the window, you abandon the legacy hardware, and you build a purely software-defined factory.
Which brings us to the bleeding edge of the industry. I want to dive deep into Audi's Edge Cloud for Production, or EC4P. Audi is collaborating heavily with Siemens and Cisco to do something that sounds almost like pure heresy in traditional operational technology circles.
It really does.
They are entirely virtualizing legacy hardware and moving critical, highly time-sensitive manufacturing applications off the factory floor and into off-premise data centers.
It is a total ground-up paradigm shift. Instead of having a physical industrial PC or a metal PLC bolted inside a dusty, vibrating electrical cabinet right next to the robotic arm on the shop floor, they are running a virtual PLC, a VPLC, on a server in a climate-controlled data center up to 13 kilometers away from the physical factory.
Wait, I have to stop you there and challenge the physics of this. Off-premise data centers for a live automated manufacturing floor. I thought the absolute golden rule, the unbreakable law of operational technology, was deterministic latency. Doesn't a single millisecond of latency or a single dropped Ethernet packet ruin an entire automated production line?
Traditionally, yes.
Right. If that robotic arm we talked about at the beginning doesn't get the stop command from the virtual PLC in exactly 5 milliseconds, it crashes a chassis into a wall. How does 13 kilometers of fiber optics not introduce catastrophic latency?
You are absolutely right to challenge the physics. In traditional standard Ethernet routing, a dropped packet means the system has to realize it was dropped, request a retransmission, and wait for the packet to arrive again.
Right, which takes time.
Exactly. That retransmission cycle introduces unacceptable latency, which means a physical collision on the factory floor. But they aren't using traditional Ethernet routing for this. They're using PRP, the Parallel Redundancy Protocol.
Break down the mechanism of PRP. How does it bend the physics of network latency?
PRP is an absolutely brilliant piece of network engineering. It takes every single critical Ethernet frame generated by the virtual PLC and duplicates it at the source. It sends the original packet down network A, and it simultaneously sends the exact duplicate packet down network B.
Oh, I see.
These are parallel, physically independent network fabrics built on advanced Cisco industrial switches. They share no common infrastructure.
So they are essentially racing each other to the destination robotic arm.
Exactly. Frame A goes down the left side of the factory, frame B goes down the right side. The receiver at the other end, the controller on the robotic arm, accepts whichever packet arrives first and silently discards the duplicate based on sequence numbers.
That's genius.
Right. If network A suffers a catastrophic hardware failure, if a switch reboots, or if a forklift literally drives over the fiber optic cable and severs it, it doesn't matter. The system doesn't even blink.
Because the duplicate packet on network B is already arriving at the exact same millisecond.
Precisely. There is zero recovery time, no single point of failure, no packet loss requiring retransmission. It mathematically guarantees the strict latency requirements, those 5 millisecond windows, even when communicating with a centralized data center miles away.
So if you virtualize the hardware into a data center and you mathematically secure the latency with parallel redundancy networks, you fundamentally change how you operate and defend the factory. The Siemens architectural document points out that in a software-defined factory, the first step to fixing a broken production line is picking up a mouse and keyboard to spin up a new virtual instance. rather than grabbing a physical key to open a metal electrical cabinet.
The benefits are staggering. It drastically lowers physical hardware procurement costs. It eliminates time-consuming shop floor firmware updates because you patch the server, not the endpoints. And it allows you to bake deep cybersecurity in from the ground up.
Right.
You can spin up a new virtual controller, deploy an experimental patch, test it against a digital twin of the factory floor, and verify it works without ever stepping onto the actual manufacturing floor. But let me tell you, the hardest part of this transformation isn't the PRP networks or the virtualized hardware. It is the human organizational challenge.
You mean merging the traditionally siloed IT and OT teams?
Yes. The cultural clash is massive. You can no longer have the IT guys sitting in carpeted offices who don't understand the kinetic physics of a spinning motor, operating entirely separate from the OT guys on the concrete floor who think IP addresses and TLS certificates are dark magic.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
To make EC4P work, Audi had to create a unified 24/7 operational team possessing deeply integrated IT and OT skill sets. They had to completely merge the cultures.
And when you have that unified software-defined architecture, you open the door for defensive tools that were literally impossible to deploy in legacy environments. Look at what Dragos is doing with their Ember AI platform.
Oh, Ember AI is incredible.
Yeah, they trained a highly specialized artificial intelligence on a decade of specific operational technology expertise, hardware behaviors, and frontline threat intelligence. When your entire factory is software-defined and centrally routed, an AI can monitor the health of production assets continuously at the packet level.
It is the absolute holy grail of industrial security. It can hunt for vulnerabilities in real time. It can analyze the vibration data of a virtualized pump and predict when a physical bearing is going to fail before it actually breaks.
That's amazing.
And from a cybersecurity perspective, it can detect the behavioral anomalies of a compromised network segment and isolate it automatically before a ransomware payload like a gentleman even has a chance to detonate. You move from reacting to the breach to proactively predicting the failure. You eliminate the entire headless device problem by virtualizing the device's brain inside a highly secure, deeply monitored data center.
It is a massive leap forward, and it completely reframes how we think about industrial resilience. But listening to all of this, from teenagers bypassing MFA to the death of legacy cryptography to the rise of AI-monitored virtual PLCs, it leaves me pondering a rather provocative thought for the future of this industry.
Oh yeah, what's that?
We are actively virtualizing the very hardware that defines industrial control. We are running physical kinetic factories from offsite servers using parallel redundancy networks. We are wrapping every legacy device in complex zero-trust cryptographic overlays and deploying artificial intelligence to hunt for threats. If we project this out 10 years, will the traditional OT engineer even exist? Or are we all just going to be IT network engineers who happen to wear steel-toe boots to the office?
I have to admit, that is a terrifying but incredibly exciting thought. The lines are blurring so fast it makes your head spin. I think the steel-toe boots will definitely stay. You still have to respect the kinetic energy of the factory floor. But the traditional wrench, that is definitely getting replaced by a Python script and a cloud console.
That's all for this episode of Cybersecurity Under Pressure, Real Attacks, Real Lessons. I think I have finally earned a fresh, hot cup of coffee, and you should probably get some sleep before your pager goes off again. See you in the next chapter.
You have been listening to Cybersecurity Under Pressure. Real attacks, real lessons. Real incidents leave real lessons. Stay prepared. Stay critical. And keep following the evidence.